Hello and welcome to CASE's Parent University. I'm Kimberly Carney and I'm a member of the CASE IST and I'll be the moderator for this evening. At CASE, our instructional support team is made up of professionals from various backgrounds and areas of expertise that provide support within the general and special education settings to all of our member districts. So tonight we have two presenters. Our first is Tracy Kunce.
Hello.
And Tracy is an IST coach and she provides executive function support. She's a speech language pathologist and has worked at CASE for 15 years and has 20 years of experience in the field. Our next presenter is Sherri Maupin-Szweda.
Hi.
Sherri is an IST coach and assistive technology facilitator. She's an occupational therapist and she's been with CASE for 16 years. So tonight's presentation is accessing the remote environment.
All right.
All right, are you guys ready?
You need to be able to screen share.
Sure. I'm trying to make you the co-host, Tracy. Okay, can you screen share now?
Yes.
Great.
Okay. All right. So last week, we talked about some of the positive aspects of remote learning and how we can help encourage resilience, patience, self-advocacy, and other positive traits in our kids during this time. Tonight, we'd like to dig in a little more to talk about using schedules, calendars as tools to support your day and ways to access the remote environment just a little easier, no matter what platform your child might be on. So we talked a lot last week about using schedules. This is a tool that's going to provide structure, predictability, and a sense of security for your child. It's also going to reduce anxiety quite a bit if it's used consistently. Other benefits include the fact that it's going to encourage development of planning and organizational skills, even when you start it with the very young kids. On top of that, it's going to support their ability to start and complete tasks. So there's lots of great reasons to use those calendars and schedules. There's a couple different schedules that I wanted to talk about tonight. There's both schedules for your entire family and those individual schedules that you see for your kiddos. As far as the family schedules go, I'd like you to consider some different aspects to talk about or to include. And some things you're going to want to include are your schedule as well as your child's schedule. When you're looking at your family schedule, think about what you have to do during the day. You're also going to want to mark times when you know that you aren't available to help your child. On the flip side, you want to indicate times when you know that your child is going to need some extra support. And highlight areas that you know that your child can handle things independently. That's going to be really important that you know that they can do some things by themselves. Also on that schedule, you want to schedule time for movement. It's really important that kids are able to see when those breaks are coming. Post your calendar where everybody can see it. And also have a morning meeting, or if it's easier for your family, an evening meeting. Include your child in these discussions. That's going to be really helpful for them and take some ownership on the calendars. And hopefully it's going to encourage them to use some sort of agenda or schedule or planner in their future. This is another example, kind of an overview or a weekly schedule. This is something I really like because it's going to give your child a sense of what's coming up for the entire week. This is just a very, very simplified version, looking at the adults that are in the house as well as your children. And you can include as much detail or just keep it simplified like this too. I know things might be all remote right now, but they may be changing, or they will be changing, and they may be changing back. So taking a look on a Sunday and seeing what's coming up in the week will really encourage that sense of security again. What days are you going to be home? What days are we in school? Who's going to be at home? And just being able to see what things look like for the entire week is a great tool to have. So this is something that would be great to be posted in the kitchen or wherever the center of the family is. This version is a version of a daily schedule. And I like this version because, like I had mentioned a little bit earlier, it includes both the child and the parent, and it takes a look at what both people are doing. So I included some different elements in this because I wanted to let you know that it doesn't matter how perfect your schedule is. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. Whatever kind of schedule you create, it doesn't have to be Pinterest perfect. You can include some pictures that you draw. You can get some stickers to put on it. I do like having some sort of visuals on a schedule, no matter what the age of your child. That really enhances the verbal, the words that are on there. Having some sort of pictures is really helpful to get a picture of what the day is going to look like. So you'll see on this one, you can see what both the child and the parent are doing throughout the day. And it's great to have this discussion before the day so you can see where the parent can support the child. So in this example, this is a younger kid. They have a morning meeting and a read aloud from 8 to 9. And mom's in a meeting, so things need to be quiet. But this would be a great discussion to have. Like, you're going to be okay because you're going to be on a call with your teacher during the meeting, and she'll be reading you a book, so you won't need any help from me, but we got to be quiet because I'm going to be in a meeting, so that'll be fine. And then from 9 to 9:30, we're both on a break, and we're going to go walk the dog. I highlighted 9:30 to 10 to indicate that this is a time where the child might need some extra support. And we already talked about that because mom's available at that time. So that's great. So you can kind of figure out if you have those discussions ahead of time, that could be a really great way to problem solve your day before it even starts. So you're not running into those issues throughout the day as they're happening. But if you and your child kind of walk through that, it really might head off some problems before they occur. And then they can see what it looks like throughout the day. All right. There we go. Okay, and this is another individual schedule. So this, again, I like to keep things simple. This is just a paper schedule that is time blocked, slipped into a plastic sleeve, and then written on with dry erase marker. And again, it just has everything listed throughout the day. So this is easy to change every single day. And you can include this by the child's workspace and so that they can see exactly what's coming up. Some elements that I think are really important is making sure that you make time visual whenever possible. And that just means having those times listed on here. So you can see that 8 o'clock block, that 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and so forth. Scheduling in the breaks are important as well, and keeping the schedule within view.
Okay, so Tracy talked a bit about pre-planning together and communicating with each other about your schedules. The next couple of slides are going to be just a couple of examples of things that you could make with your child ahead of time that are going to help them maybe facilitate some independence here in navigating all of those remote learning platforms or digital curriculum resources that they're needing to access and utilize. Again, this one here was just made with some things I had around, not perfect, not creative at all, just very simple and basic. The top left-hand side is just a login sheet. What are my different platforms that I have to use, whether it's a Seesaw or Google Classroom, or I need to go to the Clever app, whatever your district or your school might be using, where do they need to go and what's their login information that they're gonna need once they get there. Having that available to them so that they're not constantly running to you asking for what's my login, I don't remember. But having it somewhere that you both know where it's gonna be right next to wherever their learning station is in your home is a good thing to have on hand. On the right-hand side is actually step-by-step instructions for joining a Zoom call. Now, whether your district is using Google Meets or Zoom, whatever they're using, this is one way to break those steps down. And really, I just took screenshots of the things that I wanted that student to really look for on that screen. Sometimes the kids get on and there's several different visual icons on the screen and they're not sure what to look for or where to click. So hopefully this just narrows down for them that when they join that Zoom call, here's the icon you need to look for, here's what you need to click, here's where you sign in your name. The thing on the bottom is a first then visual support. And some of the students that I happen to work with do really great with visual schedules like Tracy showed us already, and there's a plethora of different ways that you can create them. I've noticed some of the children as they're getting on, they may not always refer back to their visual schedule without prompting or help, and they might get lost or they're sitting there wondering, how long is this Zoom meeting going to last? What's coming up next? I can't remember. This is one way to show them just quick and on the fly, hey, you're gonna be on this call or this meeting with your teacher, and then you're gonna do math. And if your student's a reader, you could put this in a sleeve that you could use a dry erase marker with and just write on there, first Zoom, then math. I've also done this on the fly where I've taken one of these cards that I've made and I'll use objects that are readily available in the environment to show the student what's coming up next. And I'll put maybe a calculator on that first side of the first then card and then a pencil on the then side so that they know, oh, I'm doing math and then I get to do my writing. So that they just know what's coming up next, where they're at right now, and looking forward. I made this just with a regular old file folder I had sitting at home. You could use a 2-pocket folder if you wanted to. And if your student, again, has different logins or they need different step-by-steps, you could have a binder, and each page of the binder has their different steps that they need for their digital resources. Could you go to my next slide for me? This is just another way to put together those visual supports for students. If your student kind of gets overwhelmed looking at an entire sheet of steps, this is one other way that you can do it. Thank you, Wendy, my IST teammate, who let me use some of her visual supports that she had created. And I just took these and I put them on cards and I put just a hole punch through them, and you can use a binder ring if you have one around. But this is a step-by-step too, so they just flip through each card, and as that card is done, they flip it around, they don't have to see it anymore, and they're on to the next step. You'll notice these cards are blue, and on my next slide, I have an example of some other cards, and they're white. And I did that on purpose. A lot of our students have changing schedules right now, and they're probably going to continue to change here and there throughout the rest of our school year. And the color coding things sometimes helps your child maybe know what's a Monday schedule versus a Wednesday schedule, or if they're on an A-B schedule, or maybe they need the blue ring for getting on their art class digital platform versus their ELA app that they need to access. And maybe color coding those things might help them as well, or having a separate ring for separate days. So just something to keep in mind. And then if we want to skip down to the next slide. Okay, that's my other ring there. And then on the right-hand side, again, is just an example of how you can make a step-by-step sheet. This one was just an example of how to join a Google Classroom for the first time. And I took those screenshots of what I wanted that child to pinpoint and look for on each screen as they went through, and where they needed to click as they went through. All right, my last little visual support here, and thank you Jen Tate and Wendy again, my IST teammates. This is a visual that they made of the things that the student needs to come to the learning remote learning center or the learning atmosphere with. They need their computer, maybe they have a little home office that they need that I think Tracy's going to give us some good examples of in just a second, and their toolbox, their pencil, their scissors, their glue, whatever they might be needing to bring to that learning activity, kind of their checklist before they get there.
Right. So now that you have several visual tools, you want to be sure to designate a space. Some of you may have a separate room for school. Some of you may just have a kitchen table or a coffee table. It doesn't matter, but you want to designate some sort of space that your child is working at. We want to make it somewhat different so that they can change their mindset and know that this is the time that we're working at school. So one way to designate space is to use a little office. And again, we'll refer back to Jen Tate, who created this little office. And this was a creation of my own. And these can be very simply made from materials from the dollar store or things that you even find around your house that just kind of creates a visual barrier from other siblings or just kind of blocks off an area to make it feel a little bit more like school. And these can include materials such as the schedule, your name, visuals that come straight from the classroom, such as an ABC chart, your writing tools. I like to have a clock available. Whatever seems to be important for your child are things that are good to have around. But even if you don't have an office space, just having something that's designated that's, you know, maybe not their bed, but an area around a table or something separate where they can start to think of this time as school, because it's really hard when school and home are the same. So having a separate space really gets them into a mindset of that they need to be doing some work right now, and that's going to help out a lot. But these can be really simple, and you may have heard some teachers talk about them, or I know some schools are providing them as well. One of the simplest and quite frankly, one of the most effective tools that I find for setting your child up is the language that you use. And simply by asking your child, what do you look like, can be really helpful in helping them develop the pictures in their head and making them think about their future selves. This initiates the pre-planning that they need to prepare for their day. So when you ask them, what do you look like when you're ready for school, you can start to cue them about, do you have all your materials? And are you in a good seat for learning? Or is your device charged? Or whatever else is needed. That may also be thinking about things like, are you dressed? Is your hair brushed? Are your teeth brushed? What do you look like when you're ready for school should trigger a picture in their head. And for some kids, this can be really difficult. So a way to help them develop that picture is just to actually take a picture of them. So when the next time that your child is actually ready for school, go ahead and take a picture of them that they're ready for school. And so then on subsequent days, you can ask them, do you match the picture? And they can look and see if they are ready for school. Do I have all my belongings? Do I have my water bottle by me? Do I have my device? Do I look like I'm ready? Okay, everything's checked. Or, oops, I don't have that notebook. I don't have my schedule. I need to still get that. And that's going to start to help them learn and be able to prepare ahead of time eventually for all of those things. But just that simple cue and those simple words, what do you look like when you're ready for school, is going to help them start to get those pictures in their head so that they can start preparing ahead of time.
All right. So that brings us to the end of our slides. And the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is the parent resources for remote learning that the team put together. And I think Jenna Loesch from our team was probably the captain of this. It is a plethora of resources. It's available on the CASE website. And if you go to the community tab, it's going to be the first thing under the parent university area that you'll see. There are just so many resources on there, and depending on what platforms in that your district might be using, there's going to be guides or tutorials that you can find on there that are going to help you out and give you some ideas of things that you could try, or things that maybe you're already trying, but maybe how you could tweak them a little bit to make them work a little bit better for you.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you to Tracy and Sherri. Please remember to check the CASE website for upcoming presentations in this Parent University series and for those parent resources. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at ist@casedupage.com. Thank you.